Schneider's with us, Chief Strategist, marketgauge.com. Glad you are here. So Q1 pretty much done. How do you feel right now?
Well, you've got to be pretty happy regardless of, there's only a few instruments right now that have really floundered. And so it's been kind of throw a dart and you're going to do okay. That's coming from, a really trader perspective. But as far as what I see right now is looking at my economic modern family, when you start to see small caps doing what they're doing now, which is at the highest level it's been since it started its major descent in January 2022. Granny retail also doing incredibly well. You have to say that regardless, whether it's just healthy rotation or not, there's some really good things to be happy about in terms of the U.S. economy in spite of all the doomsayers.
Right, understood. So at this point now, I know you're looking for opportunity, and I don't know how the landscape may or may not change because you do have gold on there. Why gold?
Well, gold has been doing great for quite some time, and it sort of sits in a wait situation because it has two functions. So the thing about gold is, first of all, just bringing it back to in terms of the overall economy, yes, we have to pay attention to gold because it is also not only a flight to safety, but could be signs of inflationary aspects starting to pick up. So looking at gold right now, making new all-time highs, is it making new all-time highs because there's still an underpinning of the market that doesn't believe that the economy is good? Is it making new all-time highs because there's just been such a tremendous amount of buying from other countries outside of the U.S.? Or is it picking up because inflation is going to pick up? So that's really, we have to go outside of gold and look at the other influences. And this is really where we're focused. Gold miners. Gold miners in the last couple of days have done spectacularly well after sleeping, essentially. And so right now, what we did is we gapped over a key area, which was the January 2024 high, which means right now that it could start to trend higher. If it does, it generally tends to lead gold, even though that hasn't been the case. It could also have an impact on silver, which has been dragged up, but it hasn't gotten to a point where we're saying, wow, hyperinflation. But it could if it starts to creep up over $26, $27. And then on top of that, besides the cocoa run, which of course everybody has been talking about, you're starting to see some other signs of potential in the ags. Particularly today, there was a report that corn was underplanted. So when you get Mother Nature involved, like we just saw cocoa, and now all of a sudden you might see pockets going up, you have to say at what point does inflation start to become a much bigger issue?
Yeah, with corn being underplanted, I wonder what, the trickle effect is. It's not just there won't be corn to buy, but how about everything that eats the corn or things that need to be, to field the corn, et cetera. I mean, it's a big story in the world of agriculture. You also have Trump media, DJT, love them, hate them, but the stock has done incredibly well this week.
Well, I just find the whole story, Nicole, so fascinating. I mean, if you just look at the idea of here's a company that is basically worthless, but made this great merger deal and opens up and finds Donald Trump, who obviously we all know is in some financial trouble because of the lawsuits, becoming one of the top 500 richest men in the world on paper because of this stock. I just think that that's like a movie right there. But the question, of course, is going to be, does it sustain? Right now, we've seen some breath today, taking a little bit of a breather, I meant to say, after 2 days of running up. And it's going to be very much based on what happens with him and his popularity, I think.
So we'll have to wait and see. Let's get to some other names that are Match.com, Rivian, Alibaba.
Okay, well, we've got three different areas there. So Match really is on the heels of something I know you and I talked about, which is related to retail and also related to medical, which of course is the drugs that for obesity. this vanity trade that we've been watching unfold, and I don't even think has begun to take over yet. And Match might be the last on that chain of events, is as people start to feel better about themselves, maybe dating will become more popular. And that stock actually took a nice drive up today. And so we're keeping an eye there. Alibaba, which has been basing out, really basically today held up after it looked pretty vulnerable this week because China is doing bond buying and is doing everything it can to stimulate the economy. That has more work to do, but we like it better if it gets over recent highs, which is about 78. And I think Rivian was the other one you mentioned, Nicole?
Yeah,
Yes?
you have Rivian on here. I'm interested to hear your thoughts.
Well, it's been so beat up, and interestingly, with Tesla coming down, Rivian actually had a good last couple of days, and so we think that maybe just in terms of pricing, it's possible that that could be basing out, and I also believe it's tied to solar in general, which as oil prices continue to go up, also an inflationary indicator, we could start to see more transference back into that solar energy and some of the EVs as well.
Yeah, and you, as we were talking about the different ETFs that you liked in retail and gold, you have TAN, which is the exchange traded fund for solar, right? Is that, do you think maybe a buy here?
Well, it needs a little bit more, but yeah, I mean, it held 40. That to me was the base price that it needed to find support, and it did. And I'd like to see it get up a little higher from here. This week, of course, was everything looked so great. If we get some follow through next week, I think that you haven't missed that boat at all, and you could still be getting in at some bottom levels.
All right, Mish Schneider, it's great to see you. Marketgauge.com. Always glad to have you on the show. Mish, thank you. You always manage to cover an array of names for everybody. Coming up next.